I do not have a great strategy for this question. This is a really mean thing to do at the end. There's no line reference. We have no way to use the chronology rule because this is kind of like a whole passage question. We got to look everywhere. The good thing, maybe the only strategy we have is because it's the last question, we would have done everything else and read most of the passages as a result. And so we might have a good memory of where they talk about these things. Hopefully you can find it. So which point about the resources that will be highly valued in space is implicit in passage 1, meaning hinted at, and explicit in passage 2? So the resources that will be highly valued in space. Let's look at the choices. Maybe the choices can help us sort through this. They may be different resources from those that are valuable on Earth. Well, I do remember we had a whole question about this thing with water, about how water is better in space than it is on Earth because it keeps us alive. And it has other uses as well. So that seems to be talked about, so that's okay. Now the other part, passage 2, is maybe harder to find. Here it is. The resources that are valuable in orbit and beyond may be very different to those we prize on Earth. So they're both saying this. Now, what can we do if we don't have that? Well, let's look at the other choices. If you couldn't find that, you only had a couple seconds, that's going to be tough. Your memory might help you with passage 1, but I don't know, passage 2, that's tough. So let's look at B. They will be valuable only if they can be harvested cheaply. Well, from an SAT standpoint, that word only if, that phrase, is very strong, right? It's something that we see in wrong answers very frequently, and it almost always is wrong because it's going beyond what the passage says. They will be valuable only if they can be harvested cheaply. I don't know. They didn't really get into the specifics of how the economics of all this would work. It seems to suggest that these are so valuable, these things, that they will be worth it. But they never really get into the dollar, economics of how much it's going to cost and how much you're going to profit. So this is not mentioned, but also even just without the passage, I, with experience, would have eliminated choice B because that phrase only if is too strong. Let's look at C. They are likely to be primarily precious metals and rare earth elements. Well, they definitely talk about precious metals, rare earth elements. But again, from an SAT standpoint, that phrase primarily is very strong. They say that those things are important. But primarily, those things, they didn't weigh all the different kinds of things that are going to be found in space and say this is the most important, this is the second most important. They didn't do that. So I can't make this claim. And again, without having read a word of the passage, I would have pretty confidently eliminated that choice because it's too strong. It's just not the way that correct answers sound on the SAT. D, they may increase in value as those same resources become rare on Earth. So this one, actually, like choice A, has a very nice phrase, may. That softens things. It's weak, right? It softens the choice. Here's the thing, though. I don't really remember them talking about what's going on Earth. So here's a case where my memory maybe does help me more to get rid of D than to pick A, because they aren't really talking about Earth that much. They're always kind of in outer space. So look, A is the answer. Hopefully you can get this. Hopefully you have the time to do the searching for this question. But as far as priorities go, if you are rushing through the last passage because you don't have enough time to do everything, this is not a high priority question. There are other things that are going to direct you to specific lines or vocab words. And not in this case, but in a lot of cases, graphs. And so those are the kinds of questions you can answer quickly and have a better chance of getting right than something like this where there's just no line reference. You got to go both passages. It's a lot of memory. It's rare that they do this, but it just goes to show you, you have priorities. You want to put your time and energy in the places where you're most likely to get the points. This is not that kind of question.